The 1912 birthday honours were appointments in the British Empire of King George V to various orders and honours to reward and highlight good works by citizens. The appointments were made to celebrate the official birthday of the king, and were published on the 11th of June 1912. The recipients of honours are displayed here as they were styled before the new honour and arranged by honour, with classes and then divisions as appropriate. British Empire, Order of the Bath, Knight Grand Cross of the Order of the Bath Military Division General Sir George Digby Barker, KCB, Colonel, Seaforth Highlanders, Lieutenant General Sir Charles Tucker, GCVO KCB, Colonel, the South Staffordshire Regiment. Knight Commander of the Order of the Bath Military Division Royal Navy Vice Admiral the Honourable Stanley Cecil James Colville, CVOCB, Lieutenant General William Charles Nichols, Royal Marine Artillery. Army Lieutenant General Sir James Bevan Edwards, KCMGCB, Colonel Commandant, Royal Engineers, Surgeon Major General Alexander Frederick Bradshaw, CB, Lieutenant General Sir Edward Thomas Henry Hutton, KCMGCB, Colonel Commandant, the King's Royal Rifle Corps, Major General Sir Ronald Bertram Lane, KCVOCB. Major General Robert Bellew Adams, VCCB, Indian Army, Major General James Keith Trotter, CBCMG, Lieutenant General Lawrence Worthington Parsons, CB, Lieutenant General William Edmund Franklin, CB, Colonel Alexandra, Princess of Wales's own, Military Secretary to the Secretary of State for War, and Secretary of the Selection Board. Major General Cecil Frederick Neville Macready, CB, Director of Personal Services, War Office. Civil Division Frederick George Kenyon, CB Lit. William Gibbons, CB. Henry James Gibson, CB. Companion of the Order of the Bath Military Division Major General George Frederick Gorringe, CMGDSO, Brigade Commander, Bombay Brigade, Surgeon General William Babbitt, VCCMG, Deputy Director General, Army Medical Service, Colonel Lionel Herbert, CVO, Indian Army, Brigade Commander, Rangoon Brigade. Colonel Henry Peregrine Leader, Brigade Commander, Sialkot Brigade, Colonel Edward Hume Armitage, Colonel in charge of Records, Royal Horse and Royal Field Artillery, Colonel Herbert Edward Watts, commanding No. 9 District, Eastern Command, Colonel Gerald James Cuthbert, commanding Scots Guards and Regimental District, Colonel Felix Frederick Hill, DSO, commanding No. 11 District, Irish Command, Colonel George Francis Milne, DSO, General Staff Officer, 1st Grade, 6th Division, Irish Command, Colonel Hubert de la Poegoff, Brigade Commander, 3rd Cavalry Brigade, Irish Command, Colonel Turville Douglas Foster, MVO, Assistant Quartermaster General, Staff College. Colonel Cahoon Grant Roche Thackwell, DSO, Indian Army, Colonel Francis Patrick Hutchinson, Indian Army, Colonel William Hugh Dobby, Indian Army, Brigade Commander, Manilay Brigade, Colonel Raleigh Gilbert Edgerton, Indian Army, Brigade Commander, Ferozepur Brigade, Colonel Herbert Vaughan Cox, CSI, Indian Army, Brigade Commander, Rawalpindi Infantry Brigade, Colonel Arnold Henry Grant Campbell, Indian Army, Colonel Robert Maximilian Rainey Robinson, Indian Army, Colonel Robert Neil Campbell, CIE, Indian Medical Service. Civil Division Colonel Herman Leroy Lewis, DSO, Brigade Commander, 1st Southwestern Mounted Brigade, Southern Command, John Webster Causton, Frederick John Dryhurst, Edmund Waterton Farnell, Edmund Goss LLD, Captain Morris Pascal Ehlers Hankey, Royal Marine Artillery, William Vesey Harrell, MVO, Louis John Hubie, Walter Tapper Judd, Thomas Milvain, KC, Alexander Pulling, Frank Pullinger, Herbert Vincent Reed, Richard Augustine Studdert Redmayne, Robert Henry Rue, John Chuckborough Risley, Thomas William Lysk Spence, George Joshua Stanley, CMG, Thomas Lonsdale Webster, Roland Field Wilkins. Order of the Star of India Knight Grand Commander, Knight Commander John Nathaniel Atkinson, CSI, Indian Civil Service, an ordinary member of the Council of the Governor of Fort St. George. William Thompson Morrison, CSI, Indian Civil Service, lately an ordinary member of the Council of the Governor of Bombay. Companion Abbas Ali Baig, member of the Council of India. Oswald Campbell Lees, late Chief Engineer and Secretary to the Government of Burma, Public Works Department. Paul Gregory Mellitus, CIE, Indian Civil Service, lately member of the Board of Revenue, Eastern Bengal and Assam. Lieutenant Colonel Albert Edward Woods, Indian Army, Deputy Commissioner, Naga Hills. William Exel Tempest Bennett, Chief Engineer to the Government of the Punjab, Public Works Department, Irrigation Branch. Honorary Major Sahibzada Obaidullah Khan, Commandant, Bhopal Imperial Service Troops. William Ogilvie Home, Indian Civil Service, Acting Third Member of the Board of Revenue and Commissioner of Land Revenue and Forests, and a member of the Council of the Governor of Fort St. George for making laws and regulations. Pasamanari Sundaramaya Shivaswamy Iyer, CIE, an ordinary member of the Council of the Governor of Fort St. George. William Harrison Moreland, CIE, Indian Civil Service, lately Director of Land Records and Agriculture, United Provinces of Agra and OUDH. Edward Albert Gate, Indian Civil Service, Census Commissioner for India. Juan Bahadich Abragunat Das, Juan of the Qatar State, Rajputana. Colonel Lestock Hamilton Reed, Judge Advocate General in India. Surgeon General Henry Wickham Stevenson, Indian Medical Service, Surgeon General to the Government of Bombay, and an additional member of the Council of the Governor of Bombay for making laws and regulations. Order of St. Michael and St. George. Knight Grand Cross of the Order of St. Michael and St. George the Right Honourable Lord Chelmsford, KCMG, Governor of the State of New South Wales. Honorary Knights Grand Cross Mohammed Said Pasha, President of the Council and Minister of the Interior, Egypt. Knight Commander of the Order of St. Michael and St. George the Honourable Sir William Porteous Cullen LLD, Lieutenant Governor of the State of New South Wales and Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The Honourable Rodman Palin Roblin, Premier and President of Council of the Province of Manitoba. The Honourable Richard McBride, KC, Premier of the Province of British Columbia. Harry Newton Phillips Wollaston LLD CMG ISO, lately Controller General, Department of Trade and Customs, Commonwealth of Australia. Lionel Edward Gressley Garden, His Majesty's Envoy Extraordinary and Minister Plenipotentiary to the Republics of Guatemala, Honduras and Salvador. Everard Duncan Home Fraser, CMG, His Majesty's Consul General at Shanghai. Colonel George Boone Macaulay, Royal Engineers, CMG, Director General of Egyptian State Railways. His Honour Sir Thomas William Snagg, British Delegate at the International Conferences at Paris on the White Slave Traffic 1902 and 1906. Louis Mallett, CB, Assistant Under Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. Walter Lewis Frederick Golds Langley, CB, Assistant Under Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs. Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George Major Walter Guy, Baron Benting, DSO. lately Assistant Imperial Secretary to the High Commissioner for South Africa. William Jeffrey Cahill, Commissioner of Police of the State of Queensland. Edward Cleather Fraser, nominated member of the Council of Government of the Colony of Mauritius. Herbert Simard Goldsmith, first-class resident, Protectorate of Northern Nigeria. Noel Janage, Provincial Secretary, Cape of Good Hope Province, Union of South Africa. Lieutenant Colonel James Gordon Legge, of the Military Forces of the Commonwealth of Australia. John McDougall, Commissioner, Department of Customs, Dominion of Canada. James Melville McCoon, Assistant Botanist and Naturalist, Geological Survey, Department of Mines, Dominion of Canada. Major Percy Morris Robinson, Royal West Kent Regiment, in recognition of services in connection with the West African Frontier Force. Frederick George Thomas, in recognition of services in connection with the reception of the Prime Ministers of the Self-Governing Dominions, 1911. Richard James Wilkinson, Colonial Secretary of the Strait Settlements. Charles Morris Woodford, Deputy Commissioner and Resident, British Solomon Islands Protectorate. Andrew Balfour, MD, Director of Government Research Laboratories, Gordon Memorial College, Khartoum. Andrew Percy Bennett, Commercial Attaché to His Majesty's Embassies at Vienna and Rome, and to His Majesty's Legation at Athens. Henry Alfred Constant Bonner, His Majesty's Consul General at Seoul. Francis Edward Crowe, His Majesty's Consul at Basra. James Curry, Principal of the Gordon Memorial College, Khartoum. William James Downer, ISO, Assistant Secretary, His Majesty's Office of Works. Herbert Goff, lately Acting Consul General at Hankow. Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Wolseley Haig, Indian Army, His Majesty's Consul at Kunming. John Carey Hall, ISO, His Majesty's Consul General at Yokohama. Captain George Gillett Hunter, Director General of the Coast Guard Administration in Egypt. Alfred Irwin, Interpreter and Dragoman to His Majesty's Legation at Tangier. Captain MacDougall Ralston Kennedy, late Royal Engineers, DSO, Director of the Public Works Department of the Sudan Government. The Honourable Ernest Stowelscott, MVO, First Secretary to His Majesty's Legation at Peking. Frederick Edgar Wilkinson, His Majesty's Consul at Nanking. Lieutenant Arnold Talbot Wilson, Indian Army, recently acting British Consul at Mahamra. Honorary Companion Dato Muhammad bin Mahbub, State Secretary, Johor. Order of the Indian Empire Knight Grand Commander. Knight Commander John Twigg, Indian Civil Service, lately acting First Member of the Board of Revenue and Commissioner of Salt. Abkari and Separate Revenue. George Abraham Grierson, CIE, Indian Civil Service. Mark Orlstein, CIEDSC, Archaeological Department, Superintendent, Northwest Frontier Circle. Major General Francis Henry Rutherford Drummond, CBCIE, Indian Army, lately Inspector General of Imperial Service Troops. His Highness Rai Ryan Maharawal Shri Bijaya Singh Bahadur of Dungapur, Rajputana. Nawab Bahrain Khan, CIE, head of the Mazrai tribe Indira Ghazi Khan, a member of the Council of the Lieutenant Governor of the Punjab for making laws and regulations. Henry Alexander Kirk, CIE, India Office, Director-in-Chief, Indo-European Telegraph Department. Companion Pierce Langrish Moore, Indian Civil Service, President of the Municipal Corporation of Madras. Alfred Chatterton, Indian Educational Service, Superintendent of Industrial Education, Madras. Major Arthur Abercrombie Duff, lately Military Secretary to the Governor of Madras. Major John Lawrence William French Mullen, Indian Army, Commandant, Maitikina Military Police Battalion, Burma. Burma. Bernard Coventry, Imperial Agricultural Service Director of the Agricultural Research Institute, Officiating Inspector General of Agriculture. Albert John Harrison, Richard Hamilton Campbell, Indian Civil Service Private Secretary to His Highness the Maharaja of Mysore. Rao Bahadur Bangalore. Perumal Anaswamy Mudalia, Member of the Municipal Commission of the Civil and Military Station of Bangalore. Sydney Kilner Lovett Yates, Accountant General, Posts and Telegraphs, India. Frederick George Wigley, Barrister at Law, Assistant Secretary, Legislative Department, Bengal Government. Prafulla Chandra Ray, DSc, Educational Service Professor, Presidency College, Calcutta. Colonel Francis Raymond, Principal, Veterinary College, Belgacia, Bengal. Colonel Michael Joseph Tay, CBDSO, Commandant, 56th Punjabi Rifles. Lieutenant Colonel William Bernard James, MVO, lately on duty with the Coronation Derby Committee. Major Sidney D'Aguilar Cruikshank, MVO, Royal Engineers, Executive Engineer, Public Works Department, United Provinces of Agra and OUDH. Edward Dennison Boss, in charge of the records of the Government of India and ex officio Assistant Secretary, Education Department, Government of India. John Hugh Cox, Indian Civil Service Commissioner of Excise in Central India. Khan Bahadur Muhammad Israr Hassan Khan, Provincial Civil Service Judicial Minister, Bhopal State, Central India. Major Reginald O'Brien Taylor, lately Commandant of the Imperial Cadet Corps. David Wan Ekman, Public Works Department, Sanitary Engineer, Punjab. Ray Bahadur Pandit Hari Kishan Kaul, Uncovenanted Civil Service, Punjab. Deputy Commissioner, 3rd Grade, and Superintendent of Census Operations. Lieutenant Colonel Frederick William Wodehouse, Bombay Political Department, Resident at Kolhapur and Political Agent, Southern Maratha Country. Colonel Richard Henry Hewitt, DSO, Indian Army, lately Director of Farms. Colonel Maitland Cowper, Indian Army, late General Staff Officer, 1st Grade, 1st Burma Division. Thomas Walker Arnold, India Office, Educational Advisor to Indian students. Lieutenant Colonel Charles Henry James, Indian Medical Service, Medical Advisor, Patiala State. Royal Victorian Order, Knight Grand Cross of the Royal Victorian Order Admiral Sir Archibald Berkeley Milne, BTK CBK CVO. Knight Commander of the Royal Victorian Order Professor Alexander Ogston MD. Commander of the Royal Victorian Order George Lenthal Cheetle, CBF RCS. Colonel Henry Streatfield, CBMVO. Percival Horton Smith Hartley, MVO MD. Major James Evan Bailey Martin, MVO. Inspector General Belgrave Ninnis, Royal Navy, MD. Member of the Royal Victorian Order, 4th Class William Netterville Baron, MRCS. Major Edward Bousted Cuthbertson. Companions of the Imperial Service Order Home Civil Service William David Barber, Chief Civil Assistant to the Hydrographer, Admiralty. Frederick Charles Davison, late Chief Accountant, War Office. John Duff, Consul, Gothenburg. Charles Edward Fagan, Assistant Secretary, British Museum. Lumley Arnold Marshall, Principal Clerk, Post Office. John Thomas Mulqueen, Collector of Customs and Excise, Dublin. Hugh Malcolm Robinson, Deputy Chief Inspector of Factories. John Emilius Ernest Steigenberger Sharp, Assistant Record Keeper, Record Office. Joseph Simpson, Assistant Secretary and Controller, Dublin Inland Revenue. Colonial Civil Service Lewis Adams, Chief Cashier Office of the Crown Agents for the Colonies. Edward Ernest Evelyn, Senior Assistant Colonial Secretary, Colony of Sierra Leone. Algernon Bernard Harcourt, Assistant Provincial Commissioner and Provincial Secretary, Eastern Province, Southern Nigeria. John William Holloman, Under-Secretary for Finance and Trade, State of New South Wales. Robert Johnston, Assistant Colonial Secretary of the Island of Jamaica. Charles William Langford, Excise Officer, Colony of Trinidad and Tobago. Edwin Faunce Lonsdale, Secretary for Justice, Department of Justice, Union of South Africa. Donald Robertson, Secretary, Post Office and Telegraph Department, Dominion of New Zealand. John Strauchan, Surveyor General, Lands and Survey Department, Dominion of New Zealand. William Henry Walker, Chief Clerk, Department of External Affairs, Dominion of Canada. Office of the Secretary of State for India, Thomas Charles Fenton, Barrister at Law, Staff Clerk in charge of the Parliamentary branch of the Record Department. William Edmondson Phelps, Deputy Superintendent of the India Store Depot. Sir Richmond Thackeray Ritchie, KCB, Permanent Under Secretary of State for India. Civil Services in India, Sir Charles Bailey, KCSI, Lieutenant Governor of Bihar and Orissa. Babu Charu Chandra Goswami, Registrar, Assam Secretariat, Revenue and General Departments. William James Drake, Registrar to the Government of India, Public Works Department. Mongposa, Additional District Judge, Thaton, Burma. John Charles Clancy, FRASFSN, Assistant Director of Land Records, Burma. Nawab Saeed Muhammad Khan Bahadur, Provincial Executive Service, Inspector General of Registration, Bengal. George Joseph Rogers, Extra Assistant Resident, Kashmir and Superintendent, Kashmir Residency Office. Muhammad Aziz Uddin Hussain Sahib Bahadur, Khan Bahadur, Collector and Magistrate of South Arcot, Madras Presidency. Francis George Marshall, Deputy Commissioner of Salt, Abkari and Customs, Central Division, Madras Presidency. M.R. Rai Chingalputratna Mudalia Virgal, Chief Interpreter, Presidency Magistrates Court, Egmore, Madras. Andrew Peter Mitchell, Provincial Educational Service, Inspector of Schools, Central Provinces. Babu Rams Maran Lai, Provincial Executive Service, Deputy Collector, Farrukhabad, United Provinces. Leonard Charles Dixon Bean, Traffic Superintendent, Northwestern State Railway. Rao Bahadur Kashyanath Keshav Thakur, MALLB, Provincial Civil Service, Divisional and Sessions Judge, Nagpur. Conley James Dees, Superintendent of Post Offices, Northwest Frontier Province. Isa Charan Chandulal, Punjab, Provincial Civil Service, Settlement Officer, Gujranwala, Punjab. Henry Rayner Goulding, VD, Assistant Secretary to the Financial Commissioners, Punjab. Rao Bahadur Vidal Rahimatram, Daftada, Kathiawar Agency, Bombay Presidency. Henry Alfred Hall, late Superintendent, Deccan Extramural Gang, Bombay Presidency. Khan Bahadur Syed Shams Uddin Syed Mian Qadri, Provincial Service, Oriental Translator to Government, Bombay Presidency. Robert George Gerard, Collector of Income Tax, Bengal. Godrej Dorabji Pudamji, Deputy Accountant General, Bombay. Royal Red Cross Amy Nixon, Matron, Queen Alexandra's Imperial Military Nursing Service. Mary Wilson, Matron, Queen Alexandra's Imperial Military Nursing Service. Honorary ranks: Honorary Major Nawab Muhammad Nasrullah Khan of Bhopal, Honorary Chaplain to His Majesty Reverend Philip Foster Raymond, M.A., Senior Chaplain to the Forces, Aldershot and Chaplain, First Class.